Well, we begin with two guests tonight. Congressman Darrell Issa, who says the president faces a crisis of confidence. Mr. Issa is chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, also a member of the Judiciary Committee. And his guest for the State of the Union address tonight is Arthur Laffer, former member of President Ronald Reagan's Economic Policy Advisory Board, chairman of Laffer Associates, and friend of this broadcast. We are delighted to have you both with us. Let me start with you, Mr. Chairman. This is tough times for this president. He faces a country that is describing the nation as deteriorating, troubled, and we see greater polarization. What do you expect of this president? What can he achieve tonight?
We could achieve a great deal. A small olive branch saying he wants to actually work with legislators would go a long way. But what I really expect, Lou, is that he's going to double down on his policies of vilify the rich, say the inequities are all based on not enough money being given to the bottom strata, and call for more big government programs. Unfortunately, this is exactly the medicine that he's used for the first 5 years that has left us with the weakest economic recovery. Well, would that be since
ever.
Jimmy Carter?
No, ever. It really is ever.
You have the right guy to tell you.
You've got your personal economic counselor with you, and you couldn't have chosen better.
Yeah.
Arthur Laffer, my goodness.
Couldn't have chosen better.
Yes, going to the chairman's point here, a weak economic recovery, but there is also some merit in the concerns, at least pressed by the president. One is minimum wage hasn't been keeping up with the rate of inflation. It is now lower than it should be if it had kept up with inflation. The second is that this president is correct. We have an immense income disparity, and it's the largest margin of corporate profits to wages and compensation since the Great Depression. In many ways, I admit to you.
No, it is. You're right.
I admit to you that he's running against his own record because he's been in charge for 5 years. What can the Republican Party, what can this president and the Democrats do?
Well, he's right. It is the widest discrepancy since the Great Depression, and for the same reasons, Lou, it really is. The way you solve the problem is not pulling the rich down, which is what he's trying to do with higher taxes on the rich. Is what you really want to do is pull the poor up. You want to balance up, not balance down. We need economic growth like never before, Lou, and that is the only way you get the minimum wage really higher. Because, frankly, all the inner-city teenage unemployment that you see in this country, it's a catastrophe, all because of bad economics. We need growth, and growth badly.
And that growth, Congressman Issa, you sit on the Judiciary Committee, you chair the House Oversight Committee. We are looking at an immigration reform plan, I think, coming out of your committee that is headed by Congressman Bob Goodlatte. I endorse enthusiastically that incremental approach, the 4 pieces of legislation that have moved forward, border security. Why is it that there can't be resolution on these issues so this president, the Democratic Party, your party, can move forward to exactly what Art Laffer is saying, prosperity, jobs, jobs, jobs?
Wait, Lou, you're exactly right. If you want to have wage pressure, meaning less workers than there are jobs and people really getting wage increases because there's an abundance of need and not enough workers, then you'd pass the STEM visa bill that encourages people with skills to add to America, these top engineers and scientists, to be allowed to come in here because they're job creators. For each one that comes in, 3 to 4 jobs are created and the economy grows. And that's a standalone bill, as you said, that doesn't need to look at any of the other bills because, in fact, it distinctly from the left and the right is supported. You know, Thomas Friedman is the one that said anyone that crosses the graduation line with a master or PhD in science and technology should be handed a green card. That bill does it, but in fact, the president's not supporting it.
Well,
it's amazing.
That is unfortunate. The president tonight has an opportunity to speak to all Americans. We've seen his numbers. Obviously, the audience has declined precipitously since 2009 when he gave his first national address. But at the same time, he is announcing, and John Podesta and other advisors are announcing that this president, quote unquote, has warmed up to the idea of executive action. Speaker Boehner says a constitutional wall is awaiting his front teeth if he persists in that approach.
Well, it is amazing that this president has already done immigration changes, by executive order. The courts have reversed them on the recess appointments already, and there are other challenges. But I think the important thing for America to understand is this president campaigned and won on hope and change. And tonight, America really hopes for change in this administration. I'm not sure they're going to get it.
And Arthur, your thoughts? I mean, is there any way in the world that you can see this administration tacking, if you will, in a direction that would be beneficial to the middle class, to working men and women in this country? Because that has to be the focus of not only this president, but the Republican Party itself, which has often embraced big business rather than working men and women in the middle class.
Well, it's really for everyone, Lou. I mean, what we do is if you can create that prosperity and that economic growth, it'll filter down for everyone. You know, Obama, the problem I have is that he's had this enormous opportunity. I mean, what a fantastic person, great background, all of these accomplishments he has. And then he's just thrown it away in his first 5 years. And I was hoping he'd catch on and go, but he's not. And just the final one here on just the minimum wage and all this other stuff. Remember John F. Kennedy's phrase, the best form of welfare is still a good, high-paying job. That's the way to make the poor richer, not by putting in minimum wages and taxing the rich. Well, I'm very sad.
Let me ask you both as we wrap up here. We're a little over, but let me ask you, is there room here for the Republican Party to embrace, if you will, cause and effect, and to be straightforward and honest about what has precipitated a decline in manufacturing employment, middle-class jobs, which have been lost, a middle class that is growing smaller, not larger. When we look to business practices that include the outsourcing of jobs, 3 million of them at the best, most conservative estimate, have been lost to cheap labor markets overseas. Offshoring of production. We are starting to see a return of some of those facilities to this country. But we also, is it a point at which the Republican Party, the Democratic Party can be honest and say, look, we've got to start worrying about the middle class where the American dream resides and those who aspire to it, and now is that time? Congressman?
You know, now is the time. And, you know, the party of small government is the party that benefits small business. Large businesses can overcome huge bureaucratic obstacles and regulations. It's a small business that can't afford the extra lawyers and accountants and so on. And most importantly, the return of manufacturing to America depends on this renaissance, if you will, of energy that we're enjoying. If the president would support that low-cost, high-quality energy, particularly from natural gas, we can start bringing back the auto, steel, and rubber jobs, the jobs that paid not minimum wage, not twice minimum wage, but 4 or 5 times minimum wage.
Yeah, if I could just add, Lou, make sure that the pro-middle class does not mean you're excluding the upper. While rich people and big corporations can get around regulations, restrictions, and requirements better than middle-class people, it hurts them too. And when it hurts them, they employ less. It hurts everybody, Lou. We're all in this tub together. Yeah. And you can't ever make one of us better off by pulling someone else down. It just doesn't work that way, and this is the way this president's done it, unfortunately. I wish he were Kennedy.
We've got a lot of other names. I would start with Reagan, personally, but
I would do Reagan first, too, but I want to be a little bipartisan today.
And in that spirit, I salute you, and I'm delighted that you're down there to show folks what happens, that some are capable of carrying competing ideas in their minds all the time, and successfully so. Arthur Laffer, thanks so much.
You are great, Lou. Thank you.
Thanks,
Congressman Issa, thank you so much, and a delight to hear your views on small business and the importance to the Republican Party and our prospects as an economy and a nation, indeed. Thank you both.